So, Senator Scott.
First, I want to thank FBI Director Christopher Wray for reporting more than 40 changes in how the FBI seeks secret surveillance warrants after you pointed out a series of flaws in the FBI's efforts to monitor foreign Trump campaign advisors. I think it's very important that safeguards be put in place to prevent a politically motivated rogue agent or agents from being able to manipulate any processes to pursue their own agenda. We had the Parkland shooting down in Florida. We lost 17 wonderful individuals there. And after that, FBI director did the right thing. He held individuals accountable at the FBI. And I had the opportunity to go out, as I told you, out to West Virginia, and I saw some of the processes that they've worked really hard to improve. Now, the errors committed by the FBI and abuse of authority presented in your report should alarm every American. Federal officials motivated by political bias and hatred for our president abused the FISA process in order to surveil people affiliated with the campaign of President Trump, and that's wrong. We're talking about liberal FBI officials abusing their power in an attempt to discredit and undermine the legitimacy of a candidate and his campaign. We should all be greatly concerned about this, and I think you brought this up in your report. Where was the oversight? Where was the oversight when the FBI didn't bother to confirm any of the claims in the Steele dossier before presenting them to the court as evidence to surveil Carter Page? Where was the oversight while the FBI was making 7 key errors or omissions in its original FISA application and 10 more in the 3 subsequent applications? Again, where was the oversight? It wasn't there. The decision whether to open this investigation was a discretionary judgment call left to the FBI. So, Mr. Horowitz, to your knowledge, has the FBI ever spied on any other presidential campaigns? And if so, which ones?
So we didn't go and look, Senator, historically at what other investigations the FBI conducted of various campaigns. So I'm not in a position to really speak to that.
Do you know of any investigations that have ever happened to see if there have been investigations of presidential campaigns or spied?
Certainly, as I sit here, I'm not aware of any surveillance that was done or use of confidential human sources. But I certainly can't say it didn't happen. I just can't tell you as I sit here that I know of any.
Okay. I know some people don't like the word spying, but I think that's exactly what Comey's FBI did. It's very similar to the Obama administration's IRS deciding to target conservative organizations. I think the business of weaponizing federal bureaucracies for political purposes is dangerous and disastrous. I can imagine any sane person really wanting to go down this road. I don't know anybody I work with that wants to do this. So can you just go through some of the recommendations you think that are the most important ones that the FBI has got to do to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Well, I think first and foremost, there needs to be a change in practice and policies that involves consultation and discussion with the department lawyers before moving forward, whether on opening a case or involving these kind of constitutional issues or sending in confidential human sources. The level of discussion, I did public corruption cases when I was a prosecutor in New York many years ago, and you would want to talk through very carefully before moving forward in a case like this, and on all steps, both the opening and the investigations. On the FISA side, there has to be a fundamental understanding that decisions about evidence that is undercutting, inconsistent with the theory of the case, has to go to the lawyer who's handling it for the department, and has to move up the chain in the Justice Department, because they have to make the judgment calls. They're the gatekeepers. They're the ones who are there to understand, is there enough for this FISA or isn't there? And if there is, we've got to make sure this application fairly represents to the court all the evidence and all the information. That is what didn't happen here, and that's, I think, why you see the FISA order, the court order yesterday.
Do you think the FBI is going to make the changes that they need to?
I certainly understand that from Director Wray, that is the plan.
Okay. You think he's committed?
Yes. Everything I've heard, he has made it clear he's committed to it.
Given the abuses that were found during this investigation, what should the vetting process be for assets and criminal informants? What do you think
well, there clearly on the FBI side needs to be a better process or a more effective process and understanding in place on how to vet individuals and how to make sure that managers are supervising. And the reason we made the referrals for accountability of the supervisors is this is not only a failure of the line agents, this is a failure of management from the first level all the way up to ensure hard questions are being asked. When you're running something like this, you've got to ask insightful, targeted questions. You've got to know the answers, and you've got to make sure that managers understand what their responsibilities are. So on the easier end is training. On the harder end is making people realize that they can't be making all these discretionary judgments for themselves. Other people need to know about them.
Mr. Horowitz, to your understanding, was Christopher Steele ever polygraphed?
I don't believe we saw any evidence of that.
Does that surprise you?
I'd probably want to talk further with my team about making sure I understand what the rules are at the FBI in terms of doing it, but you could see if, presuming it's within the rules at the Bureau to do that, it's a certainly reasonable question to ask.
So when the FBI finds an asset that they determine not to be credible, what should they be doing?
Well, they should
be the process.
cut that person off as a confidential human source.
Do they have an
Full
obligation
stop.
to go back and tell everybody that was providing information based on that now not credible source that they were wrong?
They have an obligation to close the person, put it in what's called the Delta file, so it's in the FBI system so that every single person who's relied on that informant can see that information. It's one of the criticisms we have here is that not all information went into the Delta system as they were learning information about Mr. Steele. And as needed, they should be alerting not only the agents who've relied on it, but if it's criminal, they should also be telling the prosecutors what they've learned.